Halima stepped back in fear. Her body trembled, and her breath came out in short gasps. She wanted to run away, but the mermaid's eyes, those large, sorrowful eyes, seemed to pull her closer, calling out for mercy. She swallowed hard, took a shaky step forward, and whispered, "Who are you? Who is after you?" Halima was a poor woman in the village. She lived in a small mud house with a leaking roof and cracked walls. The thatch roof dripped every time it rained, and she had to place old bowls under the leaks to catch the falling water. Her days were long and filled with labor, yet her pockets were always empty. She had two children, Amina and Sadiq, both thin and quiet, always hungry but too young to understand the full weight of their mother's struggles. Her husband had died many years ago, bitten by a snake during hunting season, and since then, Halima had become both mother and father to her children. Every morning, she woke before the first cockcrow, tied her faded wrapper around her waist, and set out to find food or water, whatever the day demanded. That morning, long before sunrise, Halima lifted her old clay pot and balanced it on her head. The morning was still dark, but the faint blush of dawn touched the sky. The wind was cool, brushing softly against her skin, and the air smelled of wet grass and distant smoke. She walked along the narrow footpath leading to the river. The ground was damp from last night's rain, and her bare feet sank slightly into the mud. The river was calm that morning, shimmering faintly under the pale light of dawn. Halima loved this hour. The world was silent, except for the soft chirping of birds waking in the trees and the gentle splash of water against the riverbank. It was the only time of peace she ever knew. She filled her pot with the cool, clean water and carefully lifted it onto her head. Her muscles strained under the weight, but she was used to it. Years of hardship had made her strong. She started her journey back home. But halfway through, she decided to take the shorter route, the narrow back path through the bushes. It was quicker, though lonelier. As she walked, she heard voices, male voices. She slowed her steps, moving quietly. Under a large mango tree ahead, she saw three hunters. Their clothes were dusty, their guns leaned against the tree, and their laughter echoed through the morning air. Halima greeted them politely. "Good morning, hunters," they replied without looking at her, their tone cold, their attention fixed on their conversation. She kept walking, but her ears caught their words. "Ah, we are rich now," one of them said proudly. "I still can't believe we caught a pregnant mermaid. We'll get double money for this one." Another laughed harshly. "Yes, the power inside her and the baby will bring plenty of money. The big man in the city will pay whatever we ask." The third one spat on the ground. "We must take her there tonight. If anyone finds out, we're finished." Halima froze. Her heart pounded loudly in her chest. Pregnant mermaid, double money, big man in the city. Her breath caught. She had heard stories about mermaids from the old women in the village, how they lived in deep rivers and could bring blessings or curses. But she had never believed them. Not until now. She continued walking quickly, pretending not to hear, though her hands shook as she steadied the pot on her head. Her mind raced. Could it be true? Could there really be a mermaid near our river? And they caught her? The thought made her stomach twist. When she reached the small footpath that turned towards her home, she hesitated. The hunter's laughter was still echoing faintly behind her. She didn't want to meet them again. So she decided to take a hidden path through the thick bush that curved behind the tall trees. As she walked deeper, the air grew quiet. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then she heard it soft crying. At first, she thought it was a child. The voice was weak, trembling. "Help! Help me!" Halima stopped. Every muscle in her body tightened. She looked around, but there was no one. "Is someone there?" she called softly. No answer, only another faint cry. She bent and placed her pot gently on the ground, her eyes darting through the shadows. Please, help me. The voice came again, closer now. From behind a big bamboo tree, Halima's legs trembled. She wanted to run. Every instinct told her to go home, to protect her children. But something, perhaps curiosity, perhaps compassion, pushed her forward. She took a deep breath and stepped closer to the bamboo tree. And what she saw made her gasp aloud. There, tied to the tree with thick ropes, was a beautiful woman with long, wet, golden brown hair that shimmered even in the dim light. Her skin glowed faintly, smooth and flawless like polished bronze. Her eyes, wide and full of pain, looked at Halima desperately. Her lower body was unlike anything Halima had ever seen, covered in scales that glistened turquoise and blue-green, tapering into a shimmering tail instead of legs. A mermaid. And she was pregnant. Her belly was round and heavy, her breath shallow, her body trembling with exhaustion. When their eyes met, the mermaid's lips parted. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please help me. They will kill us. Me and my baby. Halima staggered backward, her hand covering her mouth. She had seen many strange things in her life, but never this. The mermaid lifted her hand weakly, reaching out as if begging for human kindness one last time. Halima's heart pounded. She could still hear the hunter's words echoing in her mind. We caught a pregnant mermaid. We'll get double money. Now she understood. They were coming back for her. And if she didn't do something, this creature and her unborn child would die before sunrise. Halima took a step closer, her fear fighting against her compassion. Who are you? She asked in a trembling voice. And who is after you? The mermaid's lips quivered. Her voice was soft but filled with desperation. The hunters, she whispered, her voice breaking. They found me when I came to the river last night. I was looking for a safe place to give birth. Please, don't let them find me again. Halima's heart broke. She looked around. The forest was still, but the sound of distant footsteps could be heard faintly behind the trees. Someone was coming. She looked back at the mermaid, then at the path that led home. Her body trembled. Fear gripped her heart, but she knew this was a moment that would change everything. Halima's breath caught in her throat. The sound of rustling leaves grew louder. Someone was definitely coming. She turned sharply toward the sound, her heart beating like a drum in her chest. The mermaid's frightened eyes widened. They are here, she whispered, her voice trembling like a candle flame in the wind. Halima's hands began to shake. She looked at the thick ropes tied around the mermaid's wrists. They were knotted tightly, cutting deep into her glistening skin. The hunters could not be far now. Her mind raced. If they find me here, they'll kill me too. She glanced at her clay pot lying on the ground, the water still glistening inside. I could run, pretend I saw nothing, she thought. I have children waiting at home. Who will take care of them if I die? But then, her gaze met the mermaid's again, those pleading eyes full of pain and helplessness. Tears rolled down Halima's cheeks. Something inside her, something deeper than fear, refused to let her walk away. She knelt beside the mermaid. Don't be afraid, she whispered quickly. I'll try to untie you. Her trembling fingers worked at the rough ropes. The knots were tight, and every tug burned her fingers, but she didn't stop. The mermaid flinched in pain but stayed silent, her breath uneven. Why are they doing this to you? Halima asked softly, her voice filled with pity. The mermaid looked down, her voice faint. Humans. They want our tears, our scales, our blood. They say it brings power, riches, long life, but it brings only death to us. My sisters warned me not to come to the surface, but I wanted my child to be born under the morning sun, not the dark waters. Her voice cracked. I thought humans would understand life, but they only see gold. Halima's eyes glistened with tears. She kept pulling at the rope until one strand snapped. Just then, snap! A twig broke in the distance. Halima froze. The sound of heavy footsteps approached from the direction of the mango tree. Men's voices again. Check behind the bamboo, one shouted. If anyone finds her before us, we're finished. Halima's blood ran cold. She pulled harder. The rope tore, but not fully. Hurry! The mermaid whispered urgently. They're close! Halima's hands trembled. Her heart beat thundering in her ears. I'm trying! I'm trying! She whispered, desperate. At last, the rope gave way, and the mermaid's arms fell free. Halima reached for the rope around her tail, struggling to undo the knot. But then she heard the hunter's boots crushing the dry leaves too close now. She turned and saw shadows moving between the trees. They'll see us, Halima whispered. The mermaid's breathing quickened. Her scales shimmered faintly as if they could feel the danger approaching. Hide me, she whispered weakly. Please, hide me until they pass. Halima looked around wildly. There was no river nearby, only tall grass and thick bamboo. Then she saw a shallow ditch covered in fallen leaves. She helped the mermaid and placed her there. You can lie here, she said. When the mermaid was finally hidden beneath the leaves, Halima quickly threw some branches and grass over her, enough to disguise the shimmering tail. Stay quiet, Halima whispered. No matter what happens. The mermaid nodded, her tears glistening like pearls. Halima picked up her clay pot and stood, her chest rising and falling with fear. Just as she turned, 3 hunters burst through the trees. One of them shouted, Hey, woman, what are you doing here? Halima froze. Her legs felt weak. The clay pot nearly slipped from her hands. I was fetching water, she stammered. I took the wrong path. The tallest hunter stepped closer. His eyes were sharp and suspicious. Did you see any strange woman this way? He asked. A strange woman, maybe. Halima shook her head quickly. No, I saw no one. Another hunter sniffed the air and looked around. She could be lying. Let's check. Halima's palms began to sweat. She clutched her pot tighter, pretending to tremble from fear of them, not from guilt. Please, hunters, she said, her voice shaking. I am just a widow, trying to get home before my children wake up. I saw no one. The men exchanged glances. The tallest one spat on the ground. Fine. Go, he said coldly. But if you see anything strange, tell no one. Do you hear? Halima nodded quickly. Yes, I hear. They walked past her, their boots crunching through the leaves. The moment they moved deeper into the forest, Halima felt her knees weaken. She waited, listening as their voices faded into the distance. Then she rushed back to the ditch. You can come out now, she whispered. The mermaid stirred, pushing aside the leaves. Her face was pale, her breathing labored. They are gone, Halima said softly. You're safe, for now. The mermaid's eyes filled with tears again this time, not from fear, but gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. You risked your life for me, a stranger. Halima looked at her, shaking her head slowly. No, you are not a stranger. You are a mother, and a mother's cry is something I can never ignore. The mermaid smiled weakly, her hand trembling as she touched Halima's arm. Her skin was cool, almost glowing. You have a kind heart, she whispered, and because of it, your life will never remain the same. Halima frowned. What do you mean? But before the mermaid could answer, a deep rumbling sound echoed from the distance like thunder, but closer, more powerful. When the hunters went far, she helped the mermaid and pushed her back to the river. The mermaid's tail splashed weakly, and the water around her shimmered like silver. Go, Halima whispered, her heart pounding. Go before they return. The mermaid looked back at her with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered softly, her voice like the sound of distant waves. You have saved not just me, but my child. Then, with one last glance, the mermaid disappeared into the deep blue water. The ripples spread across the river and slowly faded, leaving the surface calm again as if nothing had ever happened. Halima stood still for a long time, staring at the quiet river. She could hardly believe what she had just done. Her body trembled from fear and exhaustion, but her heart felt strangely warm. She fetched her pot of water, lifted it onto her head, and slowly walked back home through the lonely bush path. When she got home, the sun had already risen. Her two children were awake, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Mama, why are you late? Amina asked. Halima forced a smile. The path was long, she said softly. She didn't tell them what had happened. Who would believe her? As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the memory of that strange morning began to fade. Life returned to normal. She went to the market, cooked for her children, and struggled to make ends meet as always. Sometimes, when she passed by the river, she would pause for a moment and look into the water, half expecting to see those shimmering scales again. But the river always looked the same, calm, deep, and silent. Soon, she began to believe it had all been a dream. One early morning, months later, Halima went to the stream again. The sun had not yet risen, and the air was cool and still. The sound of frogs croaking and crickets singing filled the quiet dawn. She bent down and filled her clay pot with water, humming softly to herself. The same narrow path, the same cold breeze, everything felt peaceful. But then, she heard something, a soft sound, like a ripple breaking the surface of still water. Halima froze. Slowly, she lifted her head and looked toward the river. The water began to glow faintly, shimmering with colors she had never seen before, shades of blue and gold dancing together like light through crystal. Her heart skipped. She dropped her pot, and it rolled gently to the side. From the glowing water, a familiar figure began to rise. Her long, golden brown hair floated around her like silk, her skin shining like polished bronze. The turquoise blue tail glimmered beneath the surface as she emerged, smiling softly. Halima gasped. You, she whispered. The mermaid smiled gently. Yes, Halima, it is I. Halima took a step back, her eyes wide. I thought I would never see you again. The mermaid's voice was calm and warm. I returned to the sea safely, and my baby was born strong and healthy. I have not forgotten what you did for us. I came back to thank you properly. Halima's lips parted, but no words came out. She could only stare, tears filling her eyes. You risked your life for a stranger, the mermaid continued. For that, I will reward you. Make a wish, Halima, and I will grant it. Eighth, Halima blinked, her hands trembling. She looked at her worn-out wrapper, the cracks in her feet, her thin arms, her mind filled with memories, the hungry nights, the leaking roof, her children's tired faces. She swallowed hard. Anything I wish? The mermaid nodded slowly. Anything, but speak it with a pure heart. Halima closed her eyes. The morning wind brushed her cheeks, and for a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, I don't want riches or gold. I only want a better life for my children. I want them to eat well, sleep under a safe roof, and never suffer like I have. The mermaid's eyes softened. You have spoken with a mother's heart, she said. Your wish is granted. She raised her hand and touched the surface of the water. A small wave of light spread out in circles, glowing brighter and brighter until it surrounded Halima completely. The air shimmered, and Halima felt something warm flow through her, a strange, peaceful feeling, as if all her burdens were being lifted. When she opened her eyes, the mermaid was smiling. "Go home," she said softly. "You will find your blessing waiting." Halima's lips trembled. "Thank you. Thank you so much." The mermaid smiled one last time before sinking slowly back into the water. The ripples faded, and the river returned to its calm silence. Halima stood there for a while, staring at the spot where the mermaid had vanished. Her heart was still racing, but she felt light, as if the world around her had changed. She picked up her clay pot and began to walk home, unaware of the miracle that awaited her. When she reached home, the morning sun was already shining gently over her small compound. The children were playing near the doorway when she noticed a fine carriage parked outside something she had never seen so close before. Her heart skipped. For a moment, she thought she had come to the wrong house. But then she saw her, standing near the doorway, dressed in a bright yellow lace wrapper with gold embroidery, her skin glowing and her neck adorned with coral beads, was her elder sister Zara. "Zara?" Halima whispered, her voice trembling. Her sister turned, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Halima!" she cried. Halima dropped her pot immediately, the water splashing onto the ground as she ran forward. They embraced tightly, tears streaming down both their faces. "Oh, Halima, it's really you," Zara said, holding her sister's face in her hands. "You haven't changed much, only thinner." Halima laughed softly through her tears. "And you look so beautiful, so different. I can't believe it's been 10 years. They hugged again, the children standing nearby, watching shyly. Zara bent down and smiled warmly at them. "These are your children?" "Yes," Halima said proudly, wiping her eyes. "Amina and Sadiq." Zara touched their heads gently. "They're beautiful. You've done well, little sister." After they went inside, Halima prepared some sweet tea and roasted groundnuts, the best she could offer. They sat on a mat in the small living room, sunlight spilling through the cracks in the wall. Zara looked around quietly for a while, her expression softening. "Halima," she said gently, "you've been living like this all these years?" Halima smiled faintly. "It's not much, but it's home. The roof leaks sometimes, and the nights can be cold, but we survive." Zara reached out and took her hand. "Not anymore." Halima frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Zara leaned forward, her eyes shining. "I came here because I couldn't stop thinking about you. I told my husband about you and your children. He agreed it's time you came to live with us in the city. You have your own room, and the children will go to school. You deserve a better life." Halima froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Zara, are you serious?" Zara nodded, smiling. "Of course I am. I've already made all the arrangements. I bought clothes for you and the children. Tomorrow, we will leave for the city together." Halima's heart swelled with emotion. She covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Oh, sister, I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you." Zara hugged her tightly. "You're my blood, Halima. I should have come for you long ago." That night, as the children slept peacefully beside her, Halima lay awake staring at the roof. The events of the day replayed in her mind, the mermaid's glowing face, her soft words, "Go home, you will find your blessing waiting." She sat up slowly, her heart pounding. Could it be the mermaid's power? Tears filled her eyes again. She whispered into the darkness, "Thank you, whoever you are, thank you." The next morning, the compound was filled with excitement. Zara's driver loaded the carriage with their few belongings, wrappers, cooking pots, and the children's worn-out clothes. Amina clung to her mother's hand. "Mama, are we really going to the city?" Halima smiled and nodded. Yes, my child, a new life waits for us there. Zara laughed warmly. And there will be plenty to eat too. Halima looked back at her small mud house one last time, the walls that had sheltered her through years of struggle, the little garden where she grew yam leaves for soup, and the path that led to the river where her miracle began. She whispered softly to herself, "Goodbye, old life." Then she climbed into the carriage with her children. Zara held her hand and smiled as the horses began to move. The village slowly disappeared behind them as the road stretched ahead, leading to a new beginning. Halima closed her eyes, the cool breeze brushing her face. She thought of the mermaid one last time, her eyes, her voice, her promise. And deep inside, she knew the truth. It was no coincidence. The blessing had come, just as the mermaid said it would. The journey to the city took many hours. The road twisted through tall forests and wide farmlands, and Halima couldn't stop staring out the window. Everything looked so different. The smooth roads, the big houses, the sound of cars instead of crickets. Her children's eyes widened in wonder. They had never seen so many buildings or lights before. Zara smiled at them warmly. "This is your new home now," she said proudly, as they approached a large white mansion surrounded by flowers and palm trees. Halima could barely speak. The house stood tall and beautiful, with shining glass windows and golden doors. The smell of fresh flowers and food floated in the air. When they entered, servants greeted them and carried their bags inside. The children giggled as they saw their new room with soft beds, clean clothes, and toys laid neatly on a table. Zara turned to her sister and said, "You will never have to fetch water again, Halima. Everything you need is here. Rest, eat, live well." Halima held her sister's hands, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Zara smiled softly. "Thank me by being happy." Days turned into weeks, and Halima's life completely changed. She wore fine clothes, ate good food, and her children started attending school. For the first time in many years, laughter filled her heart instead of worry. Yet, sometimes at night, when everyone had gone to sleep, Halima would step out to the balcony and stare at the sky. The city lights glimmered below, but she would close her eyes and remember the sound of the river, calm, soft, and full of secrets. She would whisper, "Thank you, my friend beneath the waters. You kept your promise." One evening, during the rainy season, Halima sat by the window watching the heavy downpour. Suddenly, she saw something strange through the rain. A soft glow shimmered in the puddle outside. It was faint but familiar, like moonlight trapped in water. She blinked. For a moment, she thought she saw a face, the mermaid's face, smiling up at her from the reflection. Then it disappeared. Halima gasped softly, her heart full. She smiled through her tears. "You came to see me," she whispered, "to remind me never to forget." Years passed. Her children grew strong and wise, and her sister's family treated her as their own. Halima never returned to the village, but she never stopped teaching her children gratitude, kindness, and courage. One evening, when her daughter asked her, "Mama, how did we come to live in this beautiful house?" Halima smiled gently and said, "It all began with an act of kindness. When you help someone in need, even if they are different from you, the universe remembers. Sometimes your reward may not come immediately, but it will find you when you least expect it." And from that day on, Halima was known not just as a poor widow who once lived by the river, but as the woman whose kindness changed her destiny. And whenever she heard the sound of running water from the rain, the fountain, or the kitchen tap, she would pause, smile, and whisper softly, "May peace be upon you, my friend of the river." Moral of the story: true kindness never goes unrewarded. When you show compassion without expecting anything in return, the universe finds its own way to bless you, sometimes through miracles, sometimes through people, and sometimes through a friend from beneath the waters.